I'm
It's
sorry, Moj.
okay. It's okay. You have to kind of get through this experience to get the
Yes.
benefit from your Copilot
Yes.
license.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All good. All good. I'm going to reshare my screen. I'm going to go to Typeform, see where we're at. Okay, it seems like we have a nice mix. We have some people who haven't started using it. We have some people who have working examples, trying to scale, and some experiments in between. So that's nice. I think we have a little bit of something for everyone in this workshop. So I'm gonna go into our content. What we're gonna do today. There are 5 levels really of Copilot maturity, or 5 levels of things you can do with Copilot. So we're gonna go through each one of them, share some insights, what we have seen on why a lot of people seem to kind of get stuck at level 1, and then some advice on how to move up that ladder. So what are those 5 levels? The first one is your basic Copilot chat. So it's basically using this part of Copilot, similar to ChatGPT, the other AI tools, where you have not connected it to anything. And the way that you might be using it, if you're using the basic Copilot chat, is something like, please find information online, kind of that Google search use case. Please fix my email or draft an email, things like that. What is that next level? Where do you go if you are currently at the basic Copilot chat level? The next level would be to start using it, utilizing the data from your other Microsoft tools. So this is the part where Microsoft excels, because if you have been on the Microsoft infrastructure, then you have Outlook, you have SharePoint, you have Teams. So the different tools that already contain a lot of information. If you have the Copilot 365 license, there is nothing that you need to do to access this. You really just need to learn how to construct the prompts in a way that it enables Copilot to go and find information from your files. The third level would be to use Copilot Studio, where you can create what Microsoft calls Copilot agents, or if you have been playing around with ChatGPT, a version of a custom GPT. And then as we get to the more advanced levels where you can start changing your workflows, there is an opportunity to start connecting Copilot to some of your external non-Microsoft systems. And then the final level is using Power Automate together with Copilot to build automated workflows. So these are the levels of what's possible. And we're going to spend some time now going into details on each one of them. Okay. So as I'm going through this, what I love everyone to kind of think about is try to identify where you're at, and then listen carefully to that next level. Because the biggest opportunity is if you're at level 1 to go to level 2 and so forth. And we're gonna include some tips in here, as well as an exercise you can use to find the easiest way to start making kind of more out of your Copilot license. So I'll be quick on this one. I think we all know this one. Basic Copilot, like you can have it create an agenda, draft an email. What is it good for? If you want to brainstorm ideas, if you want to learn a new concept, get generic drafts. If it doesn't have access to any of your data, it doesn't know much about your work, and then it is less helpful. So for example, if you have been using ChatGPT for longer and then you go to Copilot and you're like, oh, these answers are just not that good because it doesn't have enough context. So it ends up being less helpful. Okay, so the second level. What happens at this second level? If your organization has the 365 Copilot license, then what you basically have is you are connected to the Microsoft Graph. What is a Microsoft Graph? It's basically you have access to all of the different information in your Outlook, calendar, SharePoint, and so forth. This part is actually really nice because Microsoft is good at helping you access and work with this data in a safer way. So if you have this license, you don't need to enable anything. This is already enabled. The challenge is learning how to prompt Copilot to pull from your actual data. What this looks like, I've included some examples in here. And what this requires is guiding Copilot. You can think of it as you have an intern, and that intern has access to a lot of the information that your team has stored in these different places. And you basically tell them, please go to this folder and find this information and analyze it. So it needs some direct guidance in order to be able to access this information. And the main AI skill you need here is crafting prompts that are concise and direct and action-oriented. Some interesting use cases we have seen have been around, there is one here, meeting documentation. So you can enable Teams calls to be transcribed. Microsoft has that option to transcribe your calls, and then you can have Copilot access them and create summaries for you. This is one use case that works pretty well with Copilot. If you have not tried it, it's a very, let's say, accessible one to test, to try out. Another good use case with this is accessing client information, financial information. If you have just a lot of random files stored in your emails or your shared drive. So to summarize this, really practice the prompts and give it directions on where to go. And you're gonna already start expanding how useful Copilot is. I'll go to the next one. And Mark, if there are any questions, please stop me.
Yeah. One thing, is it possible for you to zoom into your screen when you read? I think some people, yeah. If that's probably as big as it needs to be, but that would be helpful. Angela was wondering, does it require a separate Copilot license to use Copilot Studio? Do you know that?
Microsoft 365 gives you access to Copilot Studio. I'm gonna go into that one next. It's not a separate license. It's the same one.
Okay, cool. Thank you. That's all we have, and this looks great.
Okay. Okay. So Copilot Studio. Where do you find Copilot Studio? It's the agents over here. This is basically Copilot Studio. You can click on New Agent. And if you are ChatGPT users, you're going to see that the interface is very similar to what a custom GPT looks like. You have some extra capabilities in here where you can choose the different sources your agent can use. And in here you can see you have these different tools that are accessible within Microsoft. And this is really where Copilot can be more useful than some of the other tools because it has access to your information. So this is where you can find Copilot Studio. A good way to use Copilot Studio. I'm going to share some examples, basically what this agent, what this tool does is it gives your chat, it gives your tool instructions on what it should do, and it gives it a pool of knowledge and information that it can focus on to produce more useful results for you. When is it good to use it? If you have something like a question that you keep going back to Copilot for, if you have people on your team coming to you with very similar questions, this Copilot Studio agent is the perfect use case in those scenarios. What it looks like, let's say you can add your policies and create a custom agent that can be shared with employees and answer some of their common questions. You could have product documentation with common questions for sales teams. So if you have a client that's asking for information and they need something they can quickly kind of get during a call, this is, again, a very useful scenario. If you have a new team member and you want them to more easily understand how past projects have been done, that's also a very nice use case. So these are the types of things that you can do with Copilot Studio. I would say if you are at level 1 or 2, experimenting with Copilot here, where you can either describe what you're trying to build or use the configure option and provided instructions, knowledge, just kind of test it out. It's very accessible from a skills perspective, and it can start creating some meaningful time savings for you and for your team. So to summarize it, really, if you catch yourself going back to an AI tool with a similar question, and if you have employees asking you similar questions. Okay, this is level 3. I'm gonna, unless there's some questions, Mark, I'm gonna go to level 4.
There's one question. It seems that Heidi was asking about, are there 2 Copilot Studios, one simple version and one built on Power Platform and Azure, or are they the same thing?
There is, so if you are within an enterprise, you would have access to the version that I'm showing here. Like 99% of the cases, you would have access to this version. If you have purchased Copilot yourself as an individual or a small business, there could be kind of a limited Copilot version that you have access to. Happy to take a look offline on what you have and help you navigate. But most people would have this version that I'm showing, where you have access to Studio.
So I think where a lot of the confusion comes in is Microsoft is the company who has Azure Copilot, Microsoft GitHub Copilot, and Microsoft Copilot 365. And I think that their lack of specificity in them, like there is an Azure Copilot that overlaps, I think, and helps do some agentic stuff. But what we're talking about is Microsoft 365 Copilot today. Is that right?
That is right.
Yeah, I think that's like there's lots of Copilots out there under Microsoft, and I think they call the Azure Copilot Studio for doing autogen agents Copilot as well. But we're talking about desktop productivity.
Yes, we are speaking about Copilot that is available to non-engineers. So everything that we're going through here is available to someone that doesn't code, does not have an engineering background. That is the Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for clarifying.
Of course. Okay. So the same way that you currently have access to Outlook, SharePoint, the Microsoft apps, you can set up connectors to third-party tools. The most useful connectors that we are seeing are connecting to your CRM. But in general, a good way to think about this is the main platforms you're using and where most of this data is stored. For level 4, once you have that connection, you can access it in a very, very similar way as level 2. You do need to work with your IT team to have this set up and to have this be in place. However, once you have practiced with Copilot Studio, once you have created some of these custom application, this is a nice next level. So you can link the data that exists in your Microsoft tools with data that exists in some of the major enterprise platforms that you're using. So I hope that by now you're noticing that the way you start getting more out of your Copilot license, and in essence, this is true about any AI license you have, is about giving it access to more of the information you have and then learning how to instruct it to access the right type of information to complete your goal. So we went from basic chat, doesn't have anything about you. Something that on the basic chat, I forgot to mention this, something that we have seen a lot as we start training new users is they use the same chat for different types of topics. I would discourage you to do that because it's much better. You get much better responses if you use one chat for one type of topic, because then you're focusing the model on that pool of information connected to that topic, and it's more likely to give you the best results. Okay. I'm going to go to the final level, which is, let's say, maybe the most interesting one. So the final level, you need Power Automate. It sent me out. Power Automate, typically you need a separate license, but if you have Microsoft 365, if you have Copilot, it allows you to start testing it and to start using it as you're experimenting and figuring out what you can do with it. If anyone has worked with Zapier, Make.com, this is Microsoft's version of it. So what you can do with Power Automate is, we spoke about accessing data from these different systems. With Power Automate, you can basically have actions executed on your behalf. So what does this look like? I'll start with something simple, and then we'll go into some more complex use cases. So for example, something simple is when a new calendar, like let's say you have a new meeting booked on your calendar, you want to get, you want your team to get a notification in Teams. So this is something you can set up in Power Automate. You can basically set up a logic where when a condition happens, you have the tool doing something in a different system. Power Automate is a no-code platform, so it is available to non-engineers. And in here, you can get quite creative. So you can do workflows around, let's say, when an invoice arrives, extract data, update the accounting system, send confirmation, send reminders. What we see users doing with tools like Power Automate is really, in a way, kind of creating their own custom software. So if you've ever been like, oh, I wish this tool was able to just send me this email, or I wish it was able to add this notification or to organize my information in a certain way. Power Automate basically allows you to customize the different tools that you're using. And this is where you can start experiencing some meaningful time savings. So most people who build these types of workflows can start saving 5 to 6 hours per week. And the really beautiful part of this is once you have something built in Power Automate, you can share it with your team. So other members on your team can access it, adjust it, and reuse what you have created. So if you feel comfortable with Studio, and if you feel comfortable with working with different data available across your systems, then open Power Automate. And okay, this was, and then you can start with templates, just to kind of get a sense of what you can do. And then from there, I'm gonna share how you can kind of identify the best workflow for you to go into.
Hey, Boj, there's one thing that I think you're going to cover, but Angela had asked about context windows, because when you have a long chat, you hit your context window and then you're out of luck. I am going to guess that Copilot workflows probably keep going through the steps and creating new sessions afterwards, but I don't know if there's anything in Copilot without the automation that does that.
I would say Studio would be able to solve part of that. Sometimes when you hit that limit, it is because you have to kind of upload a lot of information to start with, and then you keep going, and eventually you run out of tokens you can use in that chat. So you can front load that information into Copilot Studio, the agent, and then you can use it typically a little bit longer. So in some cases, that can solve it. Should we do a little check and see where everyone is on this ladder? And then after this, we're gonna go into some tips on how to get to that next level and some examples of how other people have done it. I'm gonna stop sharing for 1 second to open my form. Okay, here we are. Let me just reshare my screen. Okay, so use Copilot for one-off tasks. Ask Copilot to pull from my emails, and we have one person who's built an automation. Would you mind sharing the automation you've built in the chat? Okay. I'm gonna go back and we'll focus on level 2 and 3, really how to get to level 2 and 3 if what you have done so far has mostly been using Copilot as a basic chat. If you're one of those users, really just kind of start thinking about small experiments that you can do to start accessing more of the information that's available in your Microsoft applications. So the things to do: learn how to prompt Copilot to access your emails, calendars, and files. Pick one task, whether it's meeting notes, email summaries, and just use it multiple times until you get to a type of prompt that actually works. And a really, really, really important point: practice this on your actual work, not generic examples, so that you really get to something that functions. I would say if you have the Copilot 365 license, and if you haven't started testing this is a very low-hanging fruit that you can probably start experimenting with right now. If you are in the second level, I think also first level, after you do this for a bit, you can go into that third level where you start thinking about knowledge that needs to be standardized and experiment with building a custom agent, where in here, basically you write a nice prompt about what needs to be built. And then in here, you can provide it the information that it can reference as it's doing this task. And then again, train it on your specific documents. If you would like to move to level 4, identify your most critical external system, and then start slow and start experimenting, seeing how it works, where it's most helpful. And if you already feel comfortable with this and you want to automate a workflow, then you would start by mapping out something that is repetitive and requires multiple steps. If it's the first time you're building this, it would ideally be a 2 or 3-step workflow. I'll share one case study here from level 2 to level 3. So this is someone who has a highly analytical job in logistics, and information that is used to take a lot of time to find this information. Maybe you need to look into different files, speak to different colleagues. They were able to build what they called an obsolescence expert, where they inserted information on the methodology, past examples, terminology used specifically by the company. So now when the team needs to find specific information, they don't need to chase their colleagues. They can use this agent. So again, a very simple, easy way to standardize some processes, fasten onboarding of new people, and start saving time. I'm gonna go into the interactive part, the final interactive part of our webinar today. And we'll go through a very, very simple process on how to think about what you want to do next. What are the few questions you want to answer to really identify the next step for you? Because with a lot of these AI tools, you kind of hear about these examples of incredible things people have done. So it can be a bit disorienting sometimes, trying to figure out how to become one of these people and how to become more of an expert with utilizing AI tools. So we're gonna, if you can scan this QR code, and then give me 1 second. I'm gonna open the process form, and we're gonna get started. Let me reshare my screen. Okay. So what are the 3 simple questions to answer as you are thinking about how to go from the level you're at to the next one? The first one is really identifying a repetitive task that takes you somewhere between 2 and 6 hours per week. As everyone is doing this, I'll just share an example in case you need an example. So something personally for myself that I'm building right now is having AI draft follow-up emails for me. So taking meeting notes and categorizing, understanding who I have spoken with, and then drafting the right follow-up email, which is something that currently takes a lot of my time. Okay. So when you're thinking about using AI to help with a process, it's important to understand what is the specific output you want from this. So in my case, what I want from this is I want a drafted email in my drafts folder that I can review. So taking the process and then imagining if you have AI supporting with this workflow, the intern metaphor tends to be helpful for this. So you can think, let's say you have an intern that's helping you with this. What is kind of their output? What is their delivery? What do you want them to actually provide? So what's the specific output? And then thinking about where the data needs to come from. So in my case, it would be meeting transcripts, and I would want it to take a look at my previous email communication. And if there is anything else, you can enter it here. So as you have mapped this out, basically you have a process, you have an output, and you have incoming information. If you're at level 1 or 2, I'm going to share some things you can do yourself, and then I'll share a link that you can use if you'd like to chat further and if you would like us to take a look at your specific example. So if I'm building something in Copilot, then I would take the input. This is the knowledge. So where does, let me make sure my computer doesn't die. Where does Copilot get this information from? And then if I need an output, the output would be described in here. So if I apply this to the workflow that I described where I wanted to draft my emails, I can use Copilot Studio. It's just not going to put those emails in my draft folder. I would need to come to Copilot and I would need to copy the drafted email and paste it into my Outlook. For this workflow, if I wanted to build it, I would use Power Automate because then it can actually take the content and put it in my Outlook in my drafts. So if you take these 3 pieces of information, you can start imagining that next step for yourself. So the level you want to go to, the specific output you want, and then where the information comes from. One thing that I'd encourage everyone to do either right now or after this webinar is take this information, put it in Copilot, and have it help you figure out next steps. If you would like some personal help, I have included our Calendly here. I think Mark is sharing this link as well. I'll share a QR code before we end where you can access it. Mark, do we have any questions right now? No? Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Sorry, the microphone is super tiny and my mouse pointer is super big. So you were sharing the QR code and they were asking, were you trying to show the workflows? When you were doing the workflows in Copilot, you might want to just show what that screen looks like if you're trying that.
Let's do that. 1 second. Let me just open it.
And the other question John said is you might want to show Microsoft Researcher because they found that it's one of the easiest ways to see how powerful it is. And we have some questions as well.
Let's start going through them one by one. I'll take a couple of minutes for the different workflows.
Yeah, here's one from David. He's asking, can you use Copilot to read all your email newsletters and summarize. Read all emails and let me know if there are any upcoming deadlines or actions I need to take.
That is an excellent use of Copilot. Yes, you can do that. I actually like that idea a lot.
And then Angela was curious, what license level do you need for Power Automate?
You need to basically purchase a Power Automate license. It's a separate license. It is an additional $10 a month. But you can start testing it. You can start using it for free. You can start with simple workflows for free.
Okay. And I know that there are lots of companies and government organizations where they have special deals. So sometimes you may want to ask if there's a license available for you. I just ran into someone the other day and he's like, oh yeah, I just called my help desk and they enabled it because they bought a number of licenses that were not in use. Hence the name of this webinar, Gathering Dust on Someone's Hard Drive.
If you work at a larger company, the chances are you already have access to it. You just need to ask to get it enabled. That has been our experience so far. So I'll quickly go through these, taking meeting notes and sharing with the team. This is a very common use case for Copilot where Copilot can do very well. Creating weekly reports, a general topic, depends on what data you need for these reports. But yes, if the data is stored in one of your Microsoft tools, this is something you can do. Identify leads and connect with them. This would be a Power Automate use case. Schedule important dates from emails. Also a Power Automate use case. Project summaries and updates. You can use Copilot Studio or Level 2 to start experimenting with this one. Analysis of repeating manufacturing errors. I have seen this one built with Power Automate. This is let's say, a bit more on the complex side, but a very valuable workflow. Locating all documents, Level 2, amazing use case. Drafting sales proposal, leveraging company branding. This is something that you can do with Level 3 with the agent. So really nice work, everyone, for kind of taking the information we have shared and starting to apply it to your work and to think of different ideas on how to make it happen. Mark, do we have any questions? I have one final slide here.
Yeah. I think we've gotten everyone's questions answered. Heidi has been sharing the benefit of her company's experience and the confusion on developer version of Copilot Studio, Power Platform, Power Automate connectors, and Copilot's inside of M365. So that is the downside of having a huge company with different levels, but it is pretty useful if you know what you're doing. So
that is, let's say, a major downside of how this platform functions and what has contributed to it not being used as much. And really, the best way to move forward is to identify that next step for you instead of kind of trying to understand everything that's possible and everything that's going on. So I hope you're able to walk away with an overview of possibilities and then your place on the ladder and how you want to get to that next step. A bit on us, we focus on training non-engineers to use AI platforms. We work with Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, Zapier, Make, N8N, all the major ones. and we do one-on-one training for champions inside companies. So if you have specific questions for your workflow, your team, and you would like to chat more, here is a QR code where you can get access to us.
Great. Well, thank you for coming today, Boj. I appreciate it. Every week, for those of you, this is your first time here, is we try and do every Tuesday a lunch and learn on a topic, and we try and bring in experts from all over the industry. So I'm grateful for Boj and Team Lift for supporting this. She brought up something that I think is really important, and that is that the way that we've seen pilots succeed is by having good champions in the organization. And where we see that is sort of in the middle of the stack, people that are close enough to the problems to understand them and have a great enough reach to help their coworkers. So I think that what they're doing is really, really important. The other place is actually just getting our leaders educated on what problems they can solve with AI today versus a lot of the hype. So
Mark, I just see one question that maybe I can answer from Heidi. I see a discussion here.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the Q&A. So cost of running automations on Power Automate. You can start with simple ones where you're not incurring additional costs. As you get to a place where it is, let's say, processing more data, it starts, you kind of pay extra, but these are not some crazy costs that get out of control. And as you start using these platforms, you also learn how to estimate the costs. So that is something that as you get to that level 5, that you learn how to optimize these workflows so that you can get it for the most affordable amount possible.
Cool. Yeah, that is great. Well, we will post the videos to YouTube as soon as we get them downloaded, and we edit out Mark's mute disaster there in the beginning. And I encourage you to connect with Boj and her team and see if they can help you. And next week, our topic will be codifying workflows in ChatGPT projects and custom GPTs, Claude projects, and Gemini gems. So thanks for coming this week. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. I always wanted to say that. I'm such a bad YouTuber. I just like it's free video hosting. And we hope to see you at some of our live events. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Boj, for coming.
Thank you so much. So nice meeting everyone.
Bye-bye.